Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next painting collection. Today is, okay, I need to look at the calendar. It's Friday, June 3rd, 2022. It's just kind of like really scary, but also we're very excited. Thanks for joining us. If you are here, we give you extra points for making time to do this together. We can feel your energy. And if you're watching us from the future, thank you for closing the gap and catching the wave. So sorry for the little delay, but we're gonna make it up at the end of the session. And hello, friend and coworker and everything.
Hello, friends. Happy
Always,
Friday.
yes, always happy to do this together. So really excited. And yeah, let's go for it. So I haven't uploaded the image yet. I will do in a little bit. I want to talk about a couple of things in case you have an image or maybe you're working from live. But I took a photo of the nightstand, and I cheated a little bit because there were some crazy things on it that I just not too much. I think there was a piece of gum. I took it out. And not this time, but sometimes there's flaws on the nightstand. This is the show and tell, or the confession hour. So and then I just arranged the book, and I have Rebecca on my nightstand. I read it a long time ago, but I find that it's a good sort of like token. I don't know, for whatever reason. We can talk about that later. I have like some sprays and potions and lotions and stuff that I left, but it's pretty crowded, and I wanted to take a picture at nighttime just because of the light, the indoor artificial light. And I intend to take a picture with the same point of view during daytime. If I can, I'm not sure if I will be able to do it, but it would be nice to have a study of the nightstand on two different lights. So I went out, I printed it, and now I'm ready to do my sketch. We're gonna talk about like a simplification and how to tackle things in a way that feels freeing and not stressful, because ultimately it's a still life, but the grouping of the objects may be a little bit less recognizable than any other sort of like traditional still life. And we'll see. I also wanted to, it was interesting because I had to lower the camera a little bit. Otherwise, it just felt like really too much, the point of view being too high. And I almost felt I had to be in the same position or the same height as if I were sitting on the bed somehow, somewhere in between. So point of view was interesting. Also, I didn't want to capture too much of the room because, again, it was really hard to find still lifes of nightstands as the focal point and not just rooms or figures incorporated in the bedroom. So yeah, I don't know if I think I will incorporate the headboard and stuff like that. And that's a mirror, so it kind of like simplifies the composition, and maybe this little peekaboo of the reflection on the mirror would work. But just think about it. Take time to rethink. Know that regardless, we'll retrofit the image onto our painting surface and format rather. So give yourself an opportunity to reflect on the image that you're going to use and see if you're going to continue with that image or if you want to just make some changes. So don't feel obligated or stressed or doubtful about what to use. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. So I'm gonna sort of like categorize the focal points. I think that's a beginning premise. So I have the table, the actual still life, and I have the light source, and then maybe the furniture or everything else. So I try to categorize, I try to catalog or group things together. So it sort of like gives me a better understanding of what will make it to the painting. So yeah, and also because I'm going to do a lot of potato shapes, so this will be a good idea to sort of like categorize, so we can, yeah. Okay, so and then I'm going to use, do I have the yardstick? Yes, I do. And I haven't changed my, yes, so I do. All right, so I'm just going to use the yardstick and start making my first lines. Okay, here we go. And I just sort of like I had to crop the photograph because the format of the paper is a little bit larger. But I wanted to give a little bit more space above. I had different options. I thought of like cropping the lampshade and just focusing on this, making it a little bit larger. I kind of like tried doing horizontal and only doing the like even more closer to the focal point. But in the end, I just decided to, yeah, I decided to do just that essentially. So I think I'm gonna do an axis line. Should I do an axis line? Maybe I should. Yeah, I'm gonna do an axis line through the lampshade and the base of the lamp. And I'm using the yardstick just to give the parameters of the cylindric area. So here we go. More or less, approximately. I think that gives me. So what I did, I'm building my initial scaffolding. Things will change and move around, but I take some time to make alignments. Remember the beginning stage, the retrofitting of the focal points always involves a little bit of like thinking spatially. How big, where, how much space between focal points and edges of the format. I'm using 12 by 16. I'm using cotton paper. So I just want to make sure that, you know, my scaffolding, my grid, my customized grid is built in a way that serves its purpose, kind of like give me a little bit more orientation on within the format in regards to, yeah, in regards to, here we go, potato shapes, boom, boom, boom. First potato shape, lampshade. And then I need another alignment. Second potato shape will be the bottom of the table. I did not arrange this. Ooh, this is like even a little bit goes beyond. Okay, I'm just gonna do this potato shape and then I'll take it from there. It's a little bit bigger. These are the objects that I've always had on the nightstand for a very long time. So I didn't, it's way too crowded and I can go over the little boxes and containers and photographs and stuff like that. This will be truly a confessional session, you guys. Okay. But Jen, how's your nightstand situation?
Okay, friend, you're going to be shocked, but I don't have one.
Great.
I used to have one.
Okay.
And then we kind of adjusted our bed. We have this little alcove where our bed fits, and you can get two nightstands in there, but it is up. It's real tight. It's up to the mattress. And I hated that feeling of it being so squished. It felt like how you feel when something's too close to the edges on a painting.
Right. Understood.
And so we removed one, and so Carl has one, and it's pretty bare. It's like a clock, a lamp, and um, one other thing that I can't think of right now. And then he places his phone there. But I have instead these like little very narrow shelves that I've built on the corner of my wall. I'll take a picture
On the
over the
actual
break.
wall.
On the wall,
That's
yeah.
so great.
It's super cool. And so I actually have pictures there, like you know, personal pictures. It's
Yeah.
really nice because I don't like the rest of my walls are, art. So it's
Yeah.
nice to kind of have
Oh,
one space, for my personal pictures. Kind of like Julie, I hope this is okay to say, but like your bathroom in
oh
Ojai. Oh,
yeah.
I love it so much. It fills me with joy. Her, yeah, her pictures in her bathroom. Um, it's kind of like that.
Okay,
So
good.
it's like one little very concentrated piece, but then I have a tiny bit of room on my shelf, essentially for my phone. But I died laughing when you said gum because I'm always putting my gum on my
Okay,
little
that
shelf.
I feel like
It's so
human.
gross.
Thank you.
No, it's so true. It's always a hair tie and gum. You are not alone, my friend.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I knew that this was going to be a great subject just because it's so personal and intimate. And
Yes.
it's like, we've done many still lives, but, this is different. It just feels different. Okay. So, all
Yes.
right.
It is personal. I love it.
We get to know each other a little bit more.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
Ay, ay.
well, that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, I remember still, I mean, nightstands that I had. I try to remember. I don't remember all, but I feel like I wish I would have a catalog. You know that we always take pictures of people,
Mm.
of all the
Yeah,
nightstands over the years, because I think it's kind of like interesting to see.
that is interesting. I love that idea. I also remember when we did the refrigerators as like a portrait
Yeah,
at what's inside your refrigerator, and that was
yeah,
kind of like an idea of a self-portrait. I would love to have that as well,
yeah.
like
I
the
imagine.
difference between when I was 21 and now.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And all the
right.
years in between.
And I mean, for some of us that we are, privileged enough or lucky enough,
100%.
when we have a home, a different home, or our parents or a close
Yes,
relative or someone else, and
absolutely.
we have a bedroom that we can call also our bedroom,
Yes,
and how different it may be.
100%. Yep, you're absolutely right,
Yeah,
friend.
it's cool. Well, yes. I, oops, something. Okay, sorry. Let me see. Okay, I think it works. Okay, so what I did, I just brought the potato shapes first. I used the scaffolding, and my focus is composition. I don't go anywhere else. I just want to make sure that front and center, composition, retrofitting, space, focal points, all these things are way more important than proportions or angles or corners, and forget about details. I'm not even considering that. But um, we also, it's been really great this few weeks to introduce principles or words or concepts that we are constantly learning. And we brought up the idea of softening. I try to soften myself. I try not to approach this from a place of rigidity or stress or anxiety or responsibility. So soften your mind. It's okay. We don't have to be accurate or exact, but I feel like the intention of approaching this from a softer point of view, whatever that word means to you, or however you want to translate that word to your own experience. But I love this idea of approaching this from a softer place, to soften ourselves, not to be too rigid, too demanding, too judgmental on what we do right now. That's what it means to me, to sort of like be open to possibilities, to be positive and optimistic, to avoid being self-critical, to sort of like enjoy or find happiness or find yeah, joyfulness in what I'm doing. That's also what it means to me, the word softening applied to myself, to soften. So it's not easy, because we approach these from the opposite or with the opposite intention, the opposite of soft. So I did my potato shapes, and then I just went over again. I did um, polishing, I guess, on the potato shapes. And now I'm going to do the structural lines. So I'm trying to follow our script. We have this script that we have developed after so many years. Sometimes when I see or I find that there's something that I feel it's more challenging for whatever reason, there are more objects, they're not really recognizable. What am I going to do? Am I going to have to spend so much time making them recognizable? I try to sort of like throw that off the table, or have like a clean slate, or not have more than one person in the room, and just kind of like follow our sort of like steps, scaffolding or alignments or potato shapes, and then go by one step at a time. And usually if I just continue doing this, I feel like I make progress. I'm going to try also not to be too intimidated by the amount of objects. So yeah. And yeah, just gonna go over the book. And this box, we bought this box in India. We sort of like stopped traveling. We used to travel so much, and I think that was really good. But and we're very lucky that we were able to. I was very lucky, but anyhow, so most of this elements or pieces are from our travels. So we bought these boxes in India. I forgot exactly where. Kian has a better memory. This table actually, it just came from Spain. So one of our first trips, we did it was sort of like it was a road trip. But we first took a train from Madrid to the south of Spain, and then we rented a car, and then we sort of like traveled around that region. And so we went to Granada, and in Granada, there's this fabulous Alhambra building, really incredible palace from when the Islamic state, I guess, or Islam sort of like occupied Spain for 800 years. So they built this incredible architecture, and they developed the country so much. So there were some shops, there's some antique shops, and then there's some shops that sort of like reproduce some of the artwork, some of the inlay wood that's typical from that time. I forgot which century, a long time ago. So yeah, we just got this table inspired by Islamic art. And yeah, it's been it's been there for a very long time. So sometimes I love going to flea markets and collecting stuff. Sometimes I like to buy pins. I barely wear them, but I don't know. I just feel like there's something interesting about collecting this kind of like accessory. So I have this little tiny mirror box, and I have all the pins that I have right there, and then of course some sort of crystals. This is a polished, I think it's a crystal, I'm not sure, but it's polished. I forgot the name, but we got this rock. I love rocks and stones and crystals and stuff like that. So I need to sleep by a rock because that makes me feel safe. So that's a really pretty rock. And then also images, photographs. So I love the energetic influence of objects, whether they're animate or inanimate. I think traditionally in ancient cultures, and I would even argue in our contemporary way of thinking, I certainly hope so, but there's sort of like a significance and a kind of like energy that we project on objects that I feel it transcends the physical aspect of the object, and it just kind of like bounces back that intention, whether it's more specific regarding the name of the tradition or not, or which culture, how far they took it. But I do believe in that sort of like invisible kind of like magic. And at some point, okay, so here we go. That's pretty good, actually. That's not too bad. At some point, when we were putting furniture on this house, and we were trying to be mindful about this sort of like principles and concepts, and how to strengthen this sort of like energies on the bedroom, what we could do and what we could bring to kind of like make it much more inviting and stronger. And then one of the principles was, if you put photographs of your relationship or your spouse or personal relationships, this sort of like, gives this space in the house, especially or particularly if you share your living space with someone else. It sort of like brings this idea of harmony. So anything real or unreal, scientific or not scientific, ancient or contemporary, that could just make that experience of being in the bedroom a better experience, we've kind of like tried it. So yeah, we put, and the thing is that when we set it up, we put images from the beginning of our relationship. So we look like babies on these photographs, like babies. And I never changed them or added any more. And this was the time pre-digital. This was pre-digital photography, all printed images. So yeah. All right, so I've
I
done
want to
my,
see baby Julio and baby Keon.
yeah, we look so young.
I want to see. Definitely, like on the break, hold it up for
Yes,
us.
I will. Yeah, truly, we look like, our kids.
Yeah, I mean, so I just remembered as you were talking, the object I couldn't remember on Carl's bedstand is a picture of us from one of our first dates. And we look, yeah, like babies, us too. That's so funny. I'm wearing yellow ochre, Julio. You would love it.
Very yellow ochre.
I'm wearing yellow ochre in, in the picture.
Oh my gosh, see, the universe was already telling you.
100%.
All right, well, cool. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it also sort of like loose. I don't want to go into too much detail. So yeah, I'm just going to do the final stage of this sketching process. Yeah, perfect timing, which is the shading. And that's going to be a little bit challenging. But so under the table, the shadow right here. A little bit right here. Maybe I'll just bring some of the color. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's interesting how these may reflect so much of people's personalities, in the sense that almost unconsciously, I need to have like pretty things nearby, something aesthetically pleasing, or so, and I think it's amazing how this can inform other people and inform yourself, about what you like and um, who you are in a way, or what kind of person, you you want to be, even but most importantly, what would you like being surrounded with, or what would you like surrounding you? And I think that alone is kind of like intention, and I don't think we put any thought into it, we just put it together. But taking the time to sort of like go over it and seeing what are the objects that you're spending so much time close to, nearby, really close to you, and giving them some thought. That doesn't have to be some meaning of anything, doesn't have to have a history or anything like that, but just giving them a thought, a little bit of a thought, sort of like as a way to slow down our train of thought, and kind of like have some moments of positive reflection, uh, and saying, yeah, that's what I like around me. Or maybe even saying, well, maybe this is an opportunity to make a change. Everyone's going through major changes. So maybe changing the still life on your nightstand will just correlate with even more changes in your life, in our lives. So who knows? Yeah, and then I'm gonna put the floor. It's gonna certainly take me more time, but for our last webinar, we took 3 weeks instead of 2, and it made such a huge difference on the work. So I can even imagine what we did, Jen, like doing one painting a week. That was like really incredible.
I know. I wonder if anyone ever finished anything.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
it feels so stressful now. Okay, so I love the reflection. I think that's really nice. So I'm going to carve these out. Yeah, I think that's good. And oops. So I don't know if you had a chance to go over the presentation or not. We were sort of like mentioning how interesting it was not to see too many representations of still lifes of nightstands. It's not a subject that's super common. And we started kind of like reflecting a little bit. We had some theories about it. And especially because there's a book that sort of like goes over this idea of why the subject matter, still lives in general, wasn't considered like a superior subject. And okay, so I think I'm ready for, I'm excited. Yeah, this looks this looks nice already, I believe. So I'm excited for my next step, the staining. So I'm gonna sort of go ahead and explain it, and then maybe while I do the staining, I can go over um, really interesting things about still lives and why they were not considered superior subjects at some point and in contemporary painting. So I want to refresh some of the paints, but I'm going to use a big brush. Yeah, I'm going to use the big brush, some solvent, and the idea would be to get rid of the blank spaces and to seal the charcoal, prime the paper. So we have, yeah, so we have a layer. I should have done this a little earlier, I think. Okay, here we go. So color-wise, I have like different tones here. So I have different options. I could use the same tone for everything, or I could start bringing some elements. So let me just think first. I have like a little bigger brush and then darker to lighter. So we're applying color fields, consistency, very sheer and transparent, dominance of solvent and barely any liquid. And I'm going to start, I guess, with the shadows, and I'm just going to use raw umber. Whoops, I need much more. Raw umber. Yeah, I think that's good. Raw umber, and I'm just going to go over the darkest areas. Blocking out. Rather than blocking out, just kind of like applying color fields. Some, yeah, I love Vanessa Bell's Still Life and how she portrayed the reflections on the shiny surface of the side table. Oh, and I have a candle. I have a candle that I don't lit, but I have a candle. So I don't know. Maybe I should. Yeah, no. And I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. I see a leg that I didn't catch earlier. There's something about these steps being freeing. You know, I embrace the wonkiness and the messiness of this. Because I feel like, you know, the more you embrace this, the stronger the painting will be. How about I'm just going to bring some yellow ochre, maybe with some chromatic black. Yeah. And I'm going to do the floor. I'm not going to try to match anything, but at the same time, I'm just going to give it a slight color direction. Maybe the gray. So again, what's important is the darker to lighter, I would say. Yeah. So the book that we're reading and we're just going to announce, and then it's going to be our next book. I think we can just share with you guys. But well, anyhow, so it's interesting because it mentions a book by Virginia Woolf, To the Lighthouse. One of the characters in the book is a painter, and the book is incredible. I read it like not a long time ago, just because it was recommended by somebody for being a piece of literature that talks about the creative process and painters in particular. Um, so there's a character, a character in the book that doesn't agree or doesn't think that women are good at painting. It's really interesting. And again, it's by Virginia Woolf. So yeah, Charles Tansley, the book was published in 1927. And Virginia Woolf sort of like portrayed this archetype of um, everything, toxic masculinity. I'm thinking that you would probably love this new term, but also the struggle of creators in order to be accepted or acknowledged. And then in this book, it's titled "This Dark Country." And again, I think this is going to be the book for a summer read. And he quotes one thing that he says, the character: women can't write, women can't paint. And that was like a 1920s. The purpose of the author of this book to bring this up is because she wants to sort of like say that there was such an anti movement of women creating. I had this argument with somebody the other day. They were talking about how come on an auction, women's artwork is always less value, of less value. And it was hard to argue with this person, but I kind of like made the point that at least in contemporary or modern painting, 1800s, 1900s, I mean maybe throughout the entire art history, specifically women artists have always struggled to get the same level of acknowledgement. And especially in the 20th century, the struggle was so hard that there's not as much work by women artists as there is by male artists. So there's not as much to sell. So we're looking at an auction, and all the work, it's essentially by male artists. But how many countless, we know that because we talk about it, how many countless of stories of artists that they stopped painting, or their work was destroyed or lost, not so accidentally, and sometimes, or they gave up because they didn't see the purpose of it because there was no recognition. So naturally, when all these lots go to an auction, there's simply not as much work by women artists. So, and the person disagreed with me. So, he said that that has nothing to do with the market. But I think because of what we know of art history and what we constantly always talk about, and trying to shed some light on artists that have never had it easy or were swept under the rug of history, I do feel like there's a little bit of truth to that. So going back to this book, this author brings up this quote from a very influential piece of literature at the time, To the Lighthouse, and gives us a view or a preview or the reality of women who wanted to paint or write at the time, and the backlash that they faced by their male counterparts. Anyhow, so still lifes were not considered a superior art because the subject matter for women was so limited that most of the time they were sort of like relegated to just painting domestic things. So they're painting their bedrooms and their other rooms and gardens, but women were not allowed to attend anatomy classes. So figures, especially naked male figures, they were out of range, or they were not accessible. So a combination of being sort of like anti-female artist, and also this sort of like judgment of the subject matter being inferior, ended up colliding and sort of like deciding that still lives were inferior in importance and as subjects. So I wonder if that has anything to do with not finding still lives in bedrooms, specifically something that I find it's so powerful. In the presentation, we mentioned that in our experience, the paintings of bedrooms that we have come across doing a little bit of research, they all have figures in them. It's never just like the room by itself. They all have figures. And those figures, the majority of them are women, the vast majority. And we try to kind of categorize 3 different labels, categories, I don't want to use the same word, for those women in bedrooms. The main percentage of those figures, those women, were naked. So if you can go back and see those Matisses and of figures in bedrooms reclining, the Manet, even go back to Goya, which was kind of like quite contemporary for his time. The history of art is the history of naked women in bedrooms. There was another category that it's not as numerous or big, but there was also women being sick in bedrooms. You could see women going through illnesses, younger women, younger girls, sort of like dying or on the verge of dying. So this was another sort of like subject, it was a bedroom, and if the woman wasn't naked, it was ill. And the third one, and it's possibly not the most again popular, but it's still, we have seen it. And thank you, Jen, for helping putting together all these amazing references, because I feel like every time we learn about things, we get such a stronger and better idea of a context that I feel other people, when I talk to them, they don't have. And the reason is because we constantly try to kind of like bring some moments in history. But the last category is women that are dead. So like I remember it was the Monet painting of his mom. So it was always, I think, what was the name of the artist? I forgot, but I will remember. But yeah, there were a lot of like paintings of women right after they pass away on beds. So anyhow, that was like my reading, and that's why I feel like this is such a beautiful, important subject to do, to kind of like talk about all these things. I'm gonna bring some solvent because I run out. And yeah, I just love to connect different pieces and themes and then make sense of them. Oh, and I'm gonna read something that is very interesting. So, it talks about women achieving some social, some sort of like social progress, but still, in the realm of the creative, they were still not um, being recognized at the time, the turn of the century, early 20s. Um, yeah, so partly this abiding belief in women's inferiority as artists, and reference from this book, to the Lighthouse, was because of what they were permitted to paint. Still life, floral subjects in particular, became the remit of artists who, because of their gender, were denied access to essential lessons on anatomy. Um, and then something also that I found very illuminating. Still life continued to represent a form of failure, bondage, and thwarted ambition. Women's skills flourished only to hit a wall. Their impact on broader culture was negligible, and the paintings themselves were often forgotten about or destroyed. Um, I cannot wait to sort of like go into more of this. But, and by the way, this is sort of like a compilation of biographies by women artists from the Bloomsbury group. So that's why Vanessa Bell is featured, and also, um, yeah, other writers and creators. But yeah, so that's why we're doing this today, to kind of like bring some attention to this aspect. So yeah, we know a little more. So I'm still doing my wash. I kind of like gravitated as I went a little bit lighter. I gravitated towards ecru. So a combination of ecru and raw umber. There we go. And I'm just going to continue. Maybe this should be a little bit lighter. There's some blue right here. And maybe some blue on the, yeah, most of these objects were from flea markets. I remember the lamp. It didn't come with a shade, so just bought it and we added a shade. I loved at some point, I have a collection of figurines, and one of the figurines that I have in my studio, it's a night light, that it's a porcelain night light that, unlike other night lights, it's not plugged in. It stands on its own, so it just comes with a plug. So I just wanted to, yeah, I brought it to the bedroom and added it there. I don't know, it used to work, but doesn't work. I mean, then I have like one of, this is old, but I have one of those timers for lighting, because I love to turn the lights on even when I'm not there. Something about having that space, I have a sense of like being lived in, that I feel light provides. So I have timers everywhere, and I keep buying timers the minute that the technology improves. So these were, oops, sorry guys, 1 second. These were timers that at some point, yeah, sorry, at some point these timers, they had like they were digital, they were not analog, they were digital, and I bought a bunch. And then here comes Wi-Fi technology, and then I started replacing all the timers with Wi-Fi timers. But I didn't change this one. I think it's obsolete. It's not working. I just kept it there. I think I used the button because it's easier than reaching to the inside of the shade. So that's why. Okay, so, but yeah, I love this idea of having a light on, even when I'm not there, and have the space feel like it's lived in. Um, I think I'm okay. I would just want to bring a little bit of darkness right here. Whoopsie, that's too dark. And yeah, okay. Jen, I believe To the Lighthouse, wasn't it adapted to recently to a movie? I think they've done a few versions of the novel. And I feel there's one that it's recent for some reason.
Um, the one with
Yes.
Willem Dafoe, and is that what you're talking about?
No, you know,
No,
what was
because I don't.
the breakout star of Little Women that I forget her name. She has a very
Oh,
short.
Florence Pugh.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't
Oh,
know.
wait, even in Little Women, she plays an artist, right?
Yes.
So in Little Women, there's sort of like a similar, there's also this kind of like a character who criticizes her. Yes. Do you know?
Yeah.
That's very
That.
similar.
Yeah, the monologue that she has about being a woman at that time is pretty great.
Yep. So same kind of like thing actually. Oh wow. Yeah. Anyhow, I was confusing that movie with To the Lighthouse,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think it's the parallel is incredibly similar in that sense.
I don't know that I've read To the Lighthouse.
I think there's a version. So I got confused. I know that there's a version, but not recent. I was thinking of Little Women, but there is a version that um I don't know if it's the 90s or something, but they did adapt To the Lighthouse, and there is a character there who's um an artist, and she gets crushed by whatever.
The Lighthouse
Okay.
movie. Oh yeah, 1983. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, To the Lighthouse, 1983. Um, Rosemary Harris, Michael uh, Gog. I don't know how you say that name. Kenneth Branagh.
Wow.
It was distributed by PBS. I love Rosemary Harris. She's amazing.
Yeah, interesting. Um, anyhow,
Oh, cool. I bet it's great. Oh, it didn't
yeah,
get great reviews, but
I remember, like the biggest scene in the book is the dinner. There's like a huge kind of like thing around dinner and food and people sitting at a table. So I think the movies have always gravitated towards that scene, and because it's really, um, but there's so much more. It's such an interesting novel. It's not, it's Virginia Woolf. It's not an
sure.
action.
Right.
And it's all
Yeah.
reflection and philosophy and almost like journaling, and so yeah, but it's really good. All
I
right,
love that Vanessa Bell did all of the um, cover art for Virginia Woolf's books.
say that again.
Vanessa Bell frequently did the cover art for all
Oh
of Virginia Woolf's books,
wow,
which I love.
is that right? Wow, it's pretty amazing. Wow,
Super cool.
if you can find any that'd be awesome, but I didn't know
Yeah,
that too.
yeah. Yeah, I will upload some, or you know what I mean.
Cool.
Yeah, upload.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna move. Perfect timing, actually. It's just we've gone through several stages, and I feel like now I can actually start changing gears and moving on to first color nodes. And this is one of the most, we have learned over time that this is one of the most important parts of the entire painting, not even the second color nodes. So two things, many things happen simultaneously, but specifically two. We are defining some of the edges. So in a way, we're just bringing some, we're bringing some definition to this mess. And we start also being a little bit more specific with our color direction. We're not matching color, but we are starting to move towards a palette that it's much more reconciled with the image reference. So those two things happen simultaneously and kind of like takes a while to start building this. But I'm going to use the oil and I'm going to use a medium brush. The medium brush automatically, it's going to create lines rather than blocks. So that's the best way, the easiest way to start moving towards defining some of the edges. And yeah, so if you're doing sort of like the painting from live, so you don't need this kind of like trick, but I like to use the cellophane just to practice, some of the tones. I'm going to do darker to lighter also, and I'm also going to start changing some of the lines. Okay, and I'm gonna color block. So this is more like color blocking than what it was before. So I'm just gonna color block. I'm gonna try to be a little bit loose, not to be specific, because I don't want to get lost in details at this stage. I just want to enjoy the process a little bit more. And paint what I kind of like see without feeling too responsible to carry the weight of every brushstroke that I put on the painting surface. I don't want to feel like that. I just don't, I want to be present, So we sent an email with images of the Vanitas still lifes, and we used the word meditative. And, meditation doesn't have to be something that's associated with a set of rules, or that you have to learn, or that you have to subscribe to, or that it belongs to a certain group of people or demographic. The simple concept of trying to sort of like block some time and try to exercise your mind, because it's what it is, into feeling like it's existing in the present moment. So the idea is not to think, or try to not to think about past or about future. So we're always in a constant state of reacting, and we're always in a constant state of contemplating and moving from one thought from the past into the next thought that involves the future. So painting is a form of meditating, because it can easily put us in a state of like just being present in the present. So sometimes if I overthink about my painting, then I will not be in a state of like meditation when I paint. Meaning, if I think that every single brushstroke needs to make sense, I will be worried about the future more than enjoying what I'm doing right now. So at this stage, I'm gonna try not to do that. I just want to enjoy the present moment, being engaged just in doing for the sake of doing. And I think the best analogy would possibly be, everyone kind of like focuses on the breath in trying to uh, become present. It's sort of like such an easy technique. Just think of your breathing. Um, so if I had to use the same analogy, I would say just focus on each brushstroke. Um, don't think of anything else. Just focus on each brushstroke as you apply it. Don't think of what the brushstroke uh, would look like, thinking of the past or what is supposed to look like, thinking of the future. Um, yeah, so I don't know if this makes any sense, but yeah, there's a similar mechanism in which we're actually helping our brain just disconnect a little bit from constantly being in a reactive mode. And that's why we do this, among other things. That's why we do this. All right, so darker to lighter. I just tried to, by the way, just be scattered with the application of brushstrokes. Don't spend too much time on one area. It's okay if you just move around, apply a few brushstrokes on one point and then go somewhere else. You'll be better off. Your painting will look much better. You'll go faster. You'll be more efficient with your work. So yeah, there's that. I'm doing the cast shadows. And, I always, I'm gonna say this because darker to lighter, it kind of like on the composition without looking at the actual objects or focal points. And this specific painting compared to the Vanitas, it's concentrated on the objects and a little bit under the table. And that's fine. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I don't spend all my energy and time on that area. So we always talk about how important it is to take care of the peripheral context, the non-focal point spaces, and how great and good it is to kind of like develop them in order to push the painting forward really fast. So I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to check the time and see how much I'm, spending, how much time I'm spending, how long I'm working on certain things. But at some point, I'm going to switch my strategy and then just work on peripheral areas outside of the still life. I'm not quite there yet. I'm just, I'm going to work. I think I like let me just bring some yellow ochre and maybe some of the salmon rose. A lot of the salmon rose. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Another of the concepts that we've been talking about that have been really helpful is this idea of finding a sweet spot between accident and intention. A sweet spot between accident and intention, which in practical terms sort of like means that not everything needs to follow intention and be judged by that. Not everything needs to be, okay, I make a decision, this is what's in my mind, and whatever I do, if it doesn't look with that intention, then it's not good. We tend to gravitate towards that. We tend to gravitate towards intention way too much. We lean in too much towards that. And I feel, it's good, just like everything or pretty much everything, it's good to have a balance between that and the concept of accident. accident meaning chance, randomness, things that we can control, things that happen without our intention or our purpose. And part of like going through or navigating the creative process, specifically creating something, it's embracing both, working towards detaching from intention, because I feel like, for whatever reason, I don't know exactly, we can find, the origin, but we've always sort of like put all our eggs on that basket. And we forgot that, the creative process is the perfect environment to let chance happen. So think of those two aspects as a polarity, or as a dichotomy, or as what's the word that everyone uses? I'll find out another time. But yeah, and try to move away from intention too much. I mean, move away from intention. We're way too close to that area. We're way too close to making a decision and expecting a result. And sort of like start making steps, tiny steps at the beginning towards accident, embracing that randomness. The more of a balance you find between the two, not only it will make better paintings, but it will make you enjoy painting more than before. So it's not just painting, it's not just about the result. It's about finding joy in it. And I think that's also very important, because we sort of like put ourselves out of the equation. Sometimes painting becomes so tedious, so frustrating, just because we remove ourselves from the process. We remove how we feel about it. We think it's not part of the deal. We have to make something, it has to be good. Doesn't matter if we're happy or not. That's a pretty harsh approach to painting. We believe that putting yourself in the process is good. Taking care of that emotional component will make better paintings. So it's not easy to break a habit. It's not easy to move away from intention too much and embrace the idea of accident. Maybe we should find a better vocabulary for those two concepts. Oops. All right, so I'm gonna add some more notes right up there. I'm enjoying making colors. I'm enjoying being present. I'm enjoying the meditative aspect of this. For the red, I'm going to use the burnt sienna. Yeah, I love this book, Rebecca. Daphne du Maurier. I just love the book. I just love the story, the writing. I love the point of view. I don't know, that could be another study, psychoanalysis of why I like it so much, the insecurities, like the imposter syndrome, the fear of being replaced. There's so many things about the book that I find so interesting. The beauty of it, Manderley, it's Manderley, right? Yeah, when she describes the house and when she arrives, and there are flowers everywhere, and it's just so beautiful. Such a beautiful novel. I love it. And also controversial. So great. So yeah, it's just, I have a few books, but this is the one that made it to the nightstand. So it's something about it that I really like. All right. So time-wise, just I keep on building the area, enjoying one brushstroke at a time, just one brushstroke at a time. Just gonna bring a little bit of color to this Indian box, or box from India. I'm gonna think of I'm gonna channel some Vanessa Bell and her sort of like trembling brushstroke. She didn't polish things. It was sort of like really almost vibrating. Something so bold and assertive on the way she painted, that it's so wonderful. Flickering my eyes back and forth, and just like stitching one brushstroke at a time. First color notes. This is only the beginning. I know there's much more work to do, but I'm not overwhelmed by it. Especially this past few weeks that we've worked on the vanitas, it just feels so nice to have a place to go to and step away from whatever. The painting, it's the painting, each painting, it's a safety net. It's just nice to have the privilege to be able to go to a place where we could add and build and not have any sort of like judgment on it. So rather than feeling I'm so overwhelmed because this is going to take me so much time and so many sessions, and I feel how great that I have this opportunity to just bask in the goodness of making artistic decisions alone, of being, people use this word a lot, being outside of the matrix. This sort of like system that constantly demands our attention. You know, we have to make a phone call, we have to pay a bill, we have to buy something, we have to return something. It just never ends. It's voracious. But now we're painting, and that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It'll be there when we get back. So yeah, I think I am okay with the amount of work so far, because I just need to understand that I have to be careful in not being dragged or pulled back or slowed down too much, especially if I have a lot of objects. So the more objects I may have, the less time or the less development I may expect. So you have to readjust your set of expectations on each painting. It's easy, it's not difficult. Maybe, you know, the best way to approach it is with a negative. You cannot have the same set of expectations with each and every painting that you do. Every time, you know, there's going to be a different a strategy, a different way of navigating, and the expectations would be different. You may hit the right spot on one painting, but if you think that you can use the same technique, the same strategy, the same timeline, the same, I'm going to use the word formula to the next piece of work, we all know it doesn't work like that. So I'm going to work on the peripheral area and step back, because it's amazing how much perspective helps when you work on a painting. So I'm constantly looking at the screen, the camera, and looking at the camera, it makes so much more sense. You know, we were talking this past couple of weeks about not overworking and how exciting it is to get the pieces of a painting and finish it in our minds. To finish a painting in our mind. Sometimes we don't trust that. We feel like, you know, this is impossible. We cannot do that. We want to finish the painting, and we end up just adding so much more to it. But think of the joy and the excitement and the stimulus that you get when you see a painting that doesn't make sense up close, and you step back and an image emerges. There's something so magical. It's like a trick. There's something that, okay, that's a good color, that keeps us in awe. So looking at the, stepping back or looking at the painting from a distance, or through a lens, or through a camera, or taking a photo of it, will give you a better understanding of if you have this magical touch, this idea that the painting gets completed when you look at it or not. And then you decide what you want. Do you want to keep that sort of like in between stage in which the viewer helps you create the painting, or do you need a lot more work to it? So yeah, I always feel like it's a good reflection, because it makes me think about doing things for my own sake, or thinking of how things can engage other people. Because sometimes some of the decisions we make, it's because we want to sort of like please ourselves or be content with our work. You know, that's why we want to work on it a little bit more, or add a little bit more detail. We don't think about how the painting will be seen differently by other people. We think about how we feel when we paint it. So we got to be a little careful, because sometimes if that takes over, yeah, we just adding this. We may just remove the magic from the work, become too predictable, too literal, too conforming. And people are really good at finding this level of predictability on a piece. People like that. People respond to that. They like the magic trick. People like to be stimulated. So sometimes we have to think about that effect more than how we feel about the painting. Okay, so I'm just working slowly, but yeah, I'm going to start tackling the peripheral areas. Again, step back. Oops, I think I'm going to tackle the floor. Right, so as I go forward, I just realized also that I could treat certain elements in a very unified way. So I think I'm going to bring some gray actually, and I'm going to treat the background in a very monochromatic way. So just gray and white, perhaps. There's this jade color that it's on the wall, but I don't want to bring it right now. I think right now I'm just gonna set a monochromatic layer, and there's a lot of space that is occupied by the wall and the board of the bed. And I feel like if I develop that space a little bit further, I'm gonna give such um, uh, effect on the still life. I think I'm just gonna push it forward a lot more. So yeah, I'm gonna put a stop. I'm gonna hit the brakes on painting the objects on the nightstand, and then concentrate, I would say for the remaining of the time that I have left, concentrate on peripheral areas and furniture, and see how far I can push this forward. So I'm gonna start with the ground actually. So yeah, was it, I think we talked about it in one of the studio time sessions. Oh yeah, Louise Nevelson. She was contemporary of Andy Warhol, and she was as recognized and even more famous than Andy Warhol at the time. I was reading about it and online, and it kind of like gave me food for thought in understanding that, you know, this has always been the case, in which we have always learned of female painters that achieved recognition, critical acclaim, and they were favored by, you know, audiences. The few that achieved that status. But then time and time again, they got sort of like swept under the rug and completely forgotten. And so the first time that we learned about Louise Nevelson was when we taught like a camp, art camp for at Artworks with the kids. We brought in projects, and we always try to connect with some contemporary artists and some or modern artists. And we discovered her work, and we thought it was just incredible. I've never heard that name going to art school or talking to people, or even in museums. You know, sometimes museums are directly or indirectly great educational, or should be great educational institutions, you know, to keep memories alive, to make sure that stories are being told. I think that's one of the things that museums should strive for. But there has never been a Louise Nevelson. I don't know if there's been a Louise Nevelson retrospective anywhere, to be honest. So it's amazing to kind of like see the story of an artist who gets recognition and then gets forgotten by history. And yeah, so, and she's not the only one. Obviously, we have seen this many times. Berthe Morisot, the impressionist, one of the impressionist artists, she was considered like, you know, a great artist, great reputation, part of this revolutionary kind of like change. But she never, you know, I don't know, she never makes the books. Yeah. All right, so that's a little bit better. Anyhow, we're always fascinated by sort of like the stories um, of the underdogs, I guess. And this book, This Dark Country, the author, by the way, is Rebecca Birrell, and she's from the UK. Yeah, she does a fantastic job at bringing that perspective. Certainly just change our mind, and we learn a lot. Great. So one brushstroke at a time. Remember, one brushstroke at a time. Don't think of the past. Don't think of the future. Being afraid is thinking of the future. Being judgmental is thinking of the past. So it's a lifelong journey, but try to find a space, or try to increase the moments where you don't worry about the future, meaning you're afraid, or you're not haunted by the past, meaning you don't judge yourself. That's the best place to be in any creative journey. So, and just find the joy in just doing it. Yeah, just doing it. It's no one brushstroke at a time. We do it because we should do it, because we have fun doing it, because it gives us pleasure. You know, let's and if we don't find pleasure or have fun with it, then we shouldn't just kind of like give up or blame it on us. Okay, let me just kind of like go back to I'm still first color notes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start again what I said, treating these monochromatically. And I'm going to do darker to lighter. Yeah, and I'll probably, yeah, I'm just going to be also scattered. For example, there's this piece right up here. So, and I'm making the headboard much more exaggerated, but that's okay. I think that's what it's going to be. Remember, something that we have been touching or mentioning, that place between intention and accident. Sometimes things will not, most of the time, things will not happen because you put an intention to it, and then they all of a sudden they will kind of like happen because you said so in your mind. But maybe it's going to be even better. Usually that's what I rely on when I paint. It's those accidental effects that happen without me being involved in that decision, that actually I'm grateful for, and I decide to leave. I don't fix, I don't change. I use them as an opportunity to kind of like, yeah, move forward. Okay, so I think this was the right call to kind of like not worry about color, and then just bring those elements of darker and lighter. Be between chance or accident and intention. Try to be present. Don't think about future or past. Enjoy every brushstroke as you would enjoy every breath when you meditate, or if you've ever meditated, or if you've ever sort of like tried to quiet your mind at some point, intentionally or unintentionally. and sort of like go, it's a premise of like one day at a time. It's sort of like expression, one day at a time, one step at a time. That's sort of like a very meditative sort of like approach to things. Uh, don't go ahead of yourself and don't hang on the past. So like one step at a time, and also taking the humble approach to saying, I don't know how long this will take me. I don't know how far or how close I am to whatever I want to be. I'm just moving forward. I think that's important because it's sort of like sometimes accepting this humble aspect of just doing it without thinking of where or how long just puts you in a really good position to advance. Yeah. Step back. And okay, let me see. Yeah, step back. I'm gonna use the big brush and just some oil. I'm just gonna rub this without damaging the paper. Maybe a little bit of gray. I need to soften this a little bit. I'm not gonna use white. I'm gonna use ecru. Here we go. It's very sticky, so I'm gonna put some solvent. Here we go. Okay, and then on the upper part, I'm gonna do the same. Very sheer layer. My oil is super gooey, so I'm just gonna add some solvent. I'm gonna clean the brush and soften the edge or blur the edge. Here we go. Yeah, I want to blend this. I'm just gonna smudge it. Doesn't matter how thin the paint is. So smudge it, smudge it, smudge it. I don't know what's going on. Okay, here we go. Soft, soft, sfumato. Just smoke it out. It will be amazing. Yeah, see, just like smoke it out, soften it. Again, soften yourself and soften your painting. If you're softened, then the painting will soften. If you're soft, yeah, this is good. A little bit on the edge. Okay, so again, I'm just going to continue, but I'm making so much progress with little tiny steps. One step at a time. Again, it's the one step at a time could be the definition of meditation. All right, so I'm just going to bring, I'm going to work on the headboard a little bit and see what happens. See what happens without expectations. Without expectations, just focusing on the present brushstroke, flickering my eyes back and forth. I'm not worried about anything else. And I think most of those artists that we love so much, I want to say that they had this this kind of like approach. You know, you can sense their courage to just do it without expectations, I guess, or especially you know, speaking of Vanessa Bell, you know, on her style. Oh, Jen, I was looking at reading the notes that you put on Vanitas, and you copy pasted the origin of the word, and that was like super helpful, by the way. Just wanted to say that.
Oh, good.
Can you kind of like go back and read that, because that was super
Yeah.
from the Bible, right? Something like that. A verse from the Bible.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. The term originally comes from the opening lines of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, vanity of vanities. Saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity.
Yeah.
Saith the preacher. Um,
Save the
let's see.
creature.
It says, saith the preacher.
Oh, the preacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about
Interesting.
that. Yeah.
That's protecting your own, I guess.
I guess that doesn't sound very, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
Um,
no, I just like the actual, maybe the association with vanitas and vain, vanity, you know, that
yeah.
essentially are the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'll read what I put. It says it's from Wikipedia. So this one's from Wikipedia. It says a vanitas is a symbolic work of art showing the transience of life, the futility of pleasure, and the certainty of death, often contrasting symbols of wealth and symbols of ephemeral. Oh God, I can never pronounce this word. Ephemerality, ethereum. I can never say it.
I know.
It's like ethereality
Yeah,
and death.
interesting. I like the
Mhm.
wealth component actually
Yeah.
mixed in. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh. Yeah, we realized we were trying to find like references.
Let's see. Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I think my internet's a little unstable, so I'm coming in a little weird. You go ahead, Julio.
No. We were trying to find images of still lifes that would have these objects without the skull, just because it just felt a little bit too dark and yeah. So it wasn't easy. Most of the images we found were paintings, but we wanted to find actual, you know, still lifes with cut flowers or snuffed candles, clocks, and literally, you know, we put on Google several combinations of those words to see if something would come up. And then finally, whatever kind of like combination of words happen, we started to see a lot of bedside table still lifes that had those elements precisely, and ended up kind of like choosing a few of those. And that's the reason why we sort of like went from the vanitas to this still life, because we didn't realize that uh, very frequently the objects of on a nightstand, they sort of like represent the same symbolism, the same meaning about the vanitas, you know, ephemeral, temporary, symbolic, but at the same time affirming, life affirming. Because one of the reasons why the painters in the 17th century, they put skulls and bones and stuff like that in the paintings, it wasn't just to express their somber feelings about civilization, I guess, or reality, but it was also a wake-up call. The skulls and the bones in those paintings, as gruesome as they look and unappealing and unattractive, it was an affirmation of making the best out of the time, making sure that you are um, living life, that you are appreciating life, that you are um, even enjoying it, or making the pursuit of happiness part of your daily reminder, and not so much being sort of like consumed by the mortality and the imminence of or the end of any sort of like happy moment. So that was also a really learning or teaching moment, to kind of like see this as a combination of both, um, uh, temporary, ephemeral, fleeting, but also life affirming, and uh, reminding that this is it, and we need to make the best out of it. And so I think it's important. Because sometimes, especially this time, um, we almost feel like a sense of guilt of precisely doing that, just because there's so much struggle and suffering um, close to us and far away from us, and every aspect or corner or perspective, dimension, reality, that we feel sort of like guilty and paralyzed. And we should recapacitate and reflect and all those things. Of course we should, but at the same time, um, I think it's important not to lose track of um, yeah um, pursuing happiness in a way, or creating moments that um, are meaningful if we can. So otherwise we'll be consumed by the darkness of things. All right, so I'm just kind of like, again, bringing some, and I'm going back, sorry, I'm really fragmented, but going back to um, pursuing happiness or making memorable moments. I'm specifically talking about painting, because I feel like that's something that we can practice in a way that doesn't involve taking away things from someone else. There's something about, we're always reminded that most of the actions that we are privileged to enjoy mean that there's a negative effect, completely opposite, that happens somewhere else. And it's good to be reminded of that, so we can always strive to make better decisions. But I think, like with paintings, one of the things that I don't feel guilty about, in the sense that it doesn't, how would be the expression? It doesn't mean like because I'm having this, someone else is impacted in a negative way. So I think that's a kind of like feeling that we shouldn't negate or cancel or feel guilty about. I'm gonna bring some white right now. White paint. It's a good time. It's a good time. We only have like a few minutes, so I'm just gonna, as we say, bring the pastel, the whites, the lightened hues towards the end. So I have 10 minutes and I'm just gonna rush, but I'm pretty happy. I just want to bring some pink and salmon, and maybe I'll bring some red and just do the cover of Rebecca, the book, and then have it like this punch of color. But yeah. Oh, and the Indian box, I have two personal objects, or many personal objects in two categories. I have eye masks. By the way, I love sleeping with an eye mask because Kian loves sunlight. He doesn't, and I love darkness. We are completely opposite. So yeah, I have a few eye masks right here. And I also have, I don't use them anymore, but at some point I did. I'm very sensitive to noise, and I had like earplugs. So there you go. So those are the little things that I use. So that's the box of pins. You know, I always thought that, why can't I have a little jewelry box? Why is it sort of like attributed or associated with, you know, somebody else? So I like the preciousness of having like my version of a little jewel box with pins that I never wear, but you know, makes me feel happy. And then the Indian box, sort of like with sleeping tools. Yeah, that I don't use the earplugs, but yeah, when I travel or when I travel more, yeah, I always carry those with me. So then I just put them back in here. And that's it, you know. So I have like some glasses at some point. I just forgot about it, that, you know, there's always kind of like messages about how bad the artificial light is for us, and how actually pretty impactful, you know, using the blue light of our screens, where we should, you know, make sure that we don't overdo it, and how if we do it in the middle of the night can completely wreak havoc on our circadian rhythms and have so many consequences. So I feel like that's more and more and more out there and in front of people. So I got this like a yellow, it's like orange or yellow glasses, because I thought, you know, this will sort of like do the trick. I will be able to be hooked on social media when we're going to bed, and it's going to be all orange. But that lasted a week. But yeah, I just have them there. Maybe just sort of like as a relic of a time where I tried to be good, but it didn't work out. The orange glasses.
Wait, Julio, are you saying that the orange glasses help with the light from your phone?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, more than the blue, or is it supposed to be?
Yeah.
Aren't there like? Oh, okay, go ahead.
When it gets dark outside, so we are naturally secreting melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that our bodies produce when with the absence of light, and that just helps us. It's sort of like a cascading effect. It helps us have a better night's sleep. It helps us rest better and not wake up, blah, blah, blah. But anything that contains this blue light stops the production of melatonin, like on its tracks. So
that's what I'm thinking of, blue light, not
yes,
blue glasses. Okay.
right. Yes, blue light. And
Got it.
I mean, the screens are the worst. Artificial light is also bad. But the theory is that if you put the orange glasses on, then you maintain the production of melatonin. You're going to fall asleep faster, and you're not going to wake up as much in the middle of the night, which it works. But then, you can't see things. You can't see the Instagrams and the TikToks.
Not worth it.
Not worth it. That's right. Oh, that lasted just a week, I'm telling you. But yeah. All right. So I'm just adding a few notes, one stitch at a time. I try not to judge. At the same time, I would say it's, I wouldn't say, I don't know, when someone says it's a choice, I always feel a little bit, I always feel confronted by it. Like it's a choice to be happy. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know, people use the word choice too easily. So I always feel a little bit defensive when people use the word choice. As in, you have free will, and if nothing is happening, it's because you didn't choose. It's a little bit too charged for me. But with that sort of like preamble or disclaimer, I do feel in a certain way creatively, or at least apply with the painting process, that there's a certain level of choosing perspective, an emotional perspective on the work that you do. You can say, you know what, I've worked so much and I achieved so much, and I'm so surprised of how much I have been able to do. You can choose to kind of like have this sort of like inner dialogue, rather than end up in a place that it's a little bit darker. I don't know. I want to think that there is a certain level of choice there. So my point is that I try to continue working, but at the same time, take those moments to choose how much joy I have in doing this, how happy it makes me, how much I'm looking forward to continuing, how beautiful I find it. We're not sort of like used to that as much, especially when creating. There's such level of self-criticism. And maybe I should speak for myself, growing up and kind of constantly being judged by the results. Anyhow. I'm just adding some notes for the pattern. This is a Persian bed cover, whatever that name is. It's a traditional wood stamp piece, and that it's not very, it's difficult to find, but at some point we used to go to Long Beach and every month, and then there was a lady who had a lot of vintage Persian fabrics, and Kion loves fabrics, period. He loves fabrics. He the idea of like fabric shopping, he takes it seriously, whether he travels or it's for work. He's always fascinated by fabric. Um, so he found this, and it's really expensive right now, but he got such a great price. And they're so well done that, you know, you can wash them many, many times and they don't fade. It's a very old piece, but, and it feels so yummy, like natural cotton. It feels so good. Um, so yeah, we just keep it. We just keep it on our bed. Uh, like for spring, summertime, we use this. Um, yeah. Okay, so a few more minutes. We'll go until 103, I mean 105, and then we'll take a 10-minute break to recompose ourselves, to rehydrate, and listen to our bodies after this powerful, amazingly rewarding meditative session of painting. And then at 1:15, we'll reconvene and share our work in progress. Yeah, oh, the red. So let's do that. I have 2 minutes. Why not? Red. Red is my, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because I found that quote. I think we put the quote on last week. I forgot. Yeah. What was the quote about? The quote said, you know, asking for a favorite color is like asking what's your favorite lung, something like that. And I like that approach. But anyhow, I love red. I think red is my favorite color. It's funny because I have like some associations with red, but at the same time, it's my favorite color. So maybe that's also why I chose the novel, because I love the cover. It's kind of like red and gold. I'm just gonna bring this non-cadmium red, cadmium-free red, and just block it out. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not gonna think too much about it. The thing needs to be a little lighter. Stands out too much, but I'm gonna apply what I say. I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not gonna touch it. It's a little bit triggering. Maybe it's just because it's not foreshortened enough. I think the shape needs to be reshaped. It's too flat. It's too flat. It needs more angles. I didn't do the crystal, but that's okay. So I'm gonna take a photo. I'm gonna upload it on the folder, and then we invite you to please share your work in progress, so we can get inspired by the stage that you're at. We know that this takes much longer, but please come back after taking care of everything, including stretching, so we can exchange and share. So I'm going to stop right now, and we'll reconvene at 1:15. And I'm going to pause, stop the recording, by the way.